Hello and welcome to Queering the Line, Module 2. I will be introducing myself a little bit during this video and also some of the ideas of the course, some of the objectives, some of the texts, and maybe answering a few questions that you might have with hope. And I will also encourage you or instruct you to go to the first document in our shared Google Drive, and it's called Doc 1, February 9th, corresponding to today's designated class time. So this is part of the asynchronous component of this first class. And the reason why today is asynchronous is that I'm currently teaching at my other job. However, due to the most complicated schedule of all of this spring, many of our class sessions together will be synchronous. So today we won't be meeting on Zoom. We will be during other days. Check the syllabus and also my first introductory email that I had sent a few weeks ago. If you are confused, send me an email. I check my email regularly, so don't panic. The information is there. All right. So why Queering the Line? Why this title? I will tell you. I identify as queer. You don't have to, of course. You don't have to use that term if you don't feel comfortable, if you don't identify with that, if you don't think that it's the most appropriate term. The reason why I chose specifically that phrase, queering the line, rather than queer literature or queer forms, is partly to incorporate the action of queering, to queer something, to alter or shift or approach from an alternative angle, to read in the margins, to read outside of the lines, read beyond, above, below, and through the traditional forms and norms and canon in literature and creative writing. All sorts of reasons why queering the line is taking a sort of an active approach rather than just analyzing queer literature, which would be kind of dry and maybe even in some cases unproductive or offensive or not a very warm approach. I want this class to be rigorous, but also gentle at the same time if we can manage, in the sense that it can be and should be a safe space and you should feel comfortable. I won't use the word should actually in that sentence. Let me revise. I hope that you feel comfortable being vulnerable, honest, and exploring new ideas. I hope to introduce you to new ideas. Maybe not. Maybe you've read all of these books or you've heard all of these ideas before. If so, I apologize in advance. But I feel close to this subject as I identify as a queer person. And if you don't want to use that term, I'm using that term for simplicity's sake. I don't necessarily think it's the best term for this genre or this class even, but just to simplify, you can also of course replace that or use the acronym LGBTQIA+ or other acronyms that you're more comfortable with. Okay, the other reason why I use that phrase, queering the line, is inspired by one of my favorite texts, which I did not assign specifically in this class because there's just simply not enough time. And I wanted to give you some more books that we can analyze in terms of their form and craft rather than just theory and criticism. But the book that I did pull some information and inspiration from for the title is highly recommended. It's on our list of recommended books. And it's Troubling the Line, Trans and Genderqueer Poetry and Poetics, edited by T.C. Tolbert and Trace Peterson. And I've met both of these scholars. They're really generous, brilliant, and this book is an essential text if you are interested in trans poetics. And Troubling the Line, I love this concept of blurring, blending, troubling, queering the pre-existing norms and expectations and authorities and other rules and boundaries in literature and creative writing. On that note, I don't want to claim to be the authority on any of these topics, and I am not your authority figure. I am the instructor of this class. I am one of the many instructors in this program. I'm an adjunct, which carries with it all sorts of other complications. But it is one of my favorite topics to teach, and I've taught this across the spectrum in terms of ages and types of schools and types of classes. So college, high school, and grad school. And I love the topic. So hopefully that gives me a little bit of depth in the subject. But again, I'm not an authority, but I would be glad to dig as deep as you would like into this topic. And we will. So that's a little bit about the title of the course. In addition to that description, I would also like you to turn to the document to answer some of these questions that are fairly basic and will allow me to get to know you a little better. Some of you I know fairly well. Some of you I know really well. Some of you I know from the previous course, the critical essay. Not all of you were in that class because you will be taking it later or you already have. And some of you I've met just briefly in Zoom orientations through the program or not at all. So I look forward to meeting you. If I already know you, but you might not know some of the other students in the class, then please do include a significant written introduction for today's asynchronous portion. And then, of course, we'll take a little bit of time to do so verbally during our synchronous, during the next session. So I will also include a little written introduction. So I'm sorry if this is repetitive for those of you who do know me. I'm Frances Cannon, your instructor, and I also teach at Champlain College and the Vermont Commons School. I went to grad school in Iowa. I went to undergrad at the University of Vermont. I'm from all over the place, Oregon and Vermont, and I am a writer and artist as well as a teacher. So that's my introduction to myself. I'd like you to include as much detail as you want in your written introductions, including answering this question. And it's pretty basic, but you can dive in with as much depth and rigor as you would like. What does queer mean to you? And if you'd rather not explore that term specifically, you can explore the acronym, what does LGBTQIA mean to you? And think of that in terms of literature and creative writing. So in addition to maybe answering that basic question, you can also answer, what is queer literature? And also, why is it important to read it? These are basic questions, but I do think they're important to just ponder. And is it important or not to celebrate and or separate queer literature, queer authors, and queer content from mainstream authors and books? I feel two ways about it. It's a really complicated question. I think yes for some reasons and no for other reasons, and gray area for a lot of other questions. So I'd just love to hear your thoughts. And the other portion of the asynchronous document, again, that's called Doc 1, February 9th. It's in our shared Google folder, is to think of books and texts. They can be shorter than a book, essays, poems, in this field of queer literature that you would like to recommend. And you can put those ideas and recommendations in that document, and or in addition, the document list of recommended books that I think is actually called Reading Recommendations. Then the rest of this asynchronous portion for today's session, which is all asynchronous today, is to get started on your homework, which I hope you all have your books for today. And so you can take, if you get the rest of the tasks done, watching this video, writing in our document, and reading through the syllabus and familiarizing yourself with the rest of the objectives and schedule, then you can get started on your homework. and add your written responses or thoughts to the homework to that doc. You don't have to do all of that within this class session, but if you do, that's great. I just would like you to get started on the reading because the reading is up to page 109, and some of you might need a lot of time to read that amount before our next class. And that's in Saeed Jones's How We Fight for Our Lives. So that's our first text. If for some reason you were not able to get that book and you don't have access to it in digital or physical format, let me know and we can try to brainstorm or troubleshoot something else. I don't have that off of the top of my head. So in this recorded video, I will just tell you, send me an email and we'll try to work something out. All right, I really look forward to this class. Again, please let me know if you have any questions, and I will see you during our synchronous portion during our next class session. So good luck with the asynchronous material today, and we will have time later to have a more proper conversation and introduction.